We've heard this before, the story of the Good Samaritan. Jesus' parable is only in Luke's Gospel, by the way. And it reflects somewhat the first reading, which was Deuteronomy's version of what Moses was telling the people. Now, don't worry about going to the mountains to get God's presence. Don't go to the temple. Don't go anywhere exotic, because God's law is in your heart. Now, that was quite strange, because the concept of God's law was it was written in the Torah. And now Moses is saying, you don't have to go up to the mountains, you don't have to go to the sky, you don't have to go across the sea. It's right near you. It's in your heart. We believe that. At times we call it conscience, God's law in our hearts. We have Jesus, who is God's law, and we know all the wonderful things he tells us about love and appreciation and taking care of one another and feeding the hungry, and the list goes on and on. But today, he's confronted with someone who knows it all, a scholar of the law. And the scholar says to Jesus, okay, Lord, you're teaching about eternal life. How do I get to eternal life? Basically, in parentheses, just here, I who know all the laws, I know all the rules, I know how to get to eternal life, but I wanted to hear it from you. And Jesus smacked it right between his eyes and gave this beautiful story of the Samaritan. You know, you say Samaritan, we know that. Think worse. Think Hamas. Think the worst enemy. Think terrorism. And Jesus is saying, 3 church people went by and this guy got beat up and they all walked by, but a Hamas member went by and took care of him. Your worst enemy went by and took care of him. That's to set the stage of the dichotomy that Jesus has given us, that not only good people do good things. Now, we're Christian. We're in a terrible situation in our world, our church, our city, because the teachings that are proliferating in our society are contrary to what Jesus is teaching us. Love your neighbor. The lawyer identified which one was the neighbor. He knew, the guy who took care of him. And Jesus says, okay, and you go do the same. Take care of one another. But in our society, I have to say, it's almost challenging to ignore this, because things are so bad. The media has contributed to it, not mocking the media, but observing what it projects. So the media projects hate, anger, distrust, destruction, and violence. And that's by the good guys. So we have on our TV screens or in our internet every day the challenge to that question, who is my neighbor? Well, is it ICE? Is it the members of the police force? Is it the aliens who are here legally? Is it the aliens, migrants who are here illegally? Is it those who have been picked up and put in jail? Who is our neighbor? We're stuck. We're stuck. We know what goes on with our neighbors. All the dregs of society are right in front of our faces. And we're asked by Jesus to treat one another with the same mercy that the Samaritan treated the Jew. And for the Jewish ears, that must have been outstandingly irritating, because they knew the Samaritans were not as good as they were. Forget the reason, that's history, you could find that out easily. But the fact that they actually hated the Samaritans, Jesus picked that piece up. Jesus picked that piece up, and he played with it. He chose the most outstanding enemy of the people as the example of who did good. Now, I'm hardly here today to praise those who destroy our flag, those who march in protest and cause destruction, those who throw rocks at police or members of ICE. They've become the enemy of the people. And Jesus is saying, in today's scriptures, they're the ones we're supposed to love. And they're downright pain in the necks, at least. They're destructive. They're teaching our children to be destructive. They're teaching our children in this country to hate the American flag. So they are our, quote, enemies, but Jesus is saying, you've got to love them. You've got to be compassionate toward them. The scriptures today bother me. They should bother all of us if we really listen to them. Because we're in a very contradictory world. Maybe it's always been that way. I only lived in this century, a little bit in the last century too. But the world is in contradiction. And we who are Christians are not the main force in the world. Were we one day? Yes. Should we be? We represent God, and we represent the Son of God, Jesus Christ. So the answer to that, I believe, is yes. But that answer is not sufficient to answer the scriptures today that catch us in a dilemma. Society is attempting to govern our minds and hearts. Jesus is inviting us to have God control our minds, hearts, and soul. And as those members of the nobility and religious institution of the Jewish religion try to justify themselves, I can't touch a bleeding man because according to the law, he's impure, and I would be impure too. So they manipulate the law, and you know that goes on every minute of the day. As soon as you walk out this door, the law is being manipulated. The American law and the Christian law is being manipulated. So the protesters go on. Those who carry ripped flags go on. And a few weeks ago, we marched too, as a parish, on the Feast of St. Anthony. So we were standing up in this neighborhood and many neighborhoods throughout the country on the Feast of St. Anthony to let the world know what we believe and stand up for what we believe. Many dioceses throughout the country were also highlighting the profession of faith through carrying the Eucharist through the streets, telling the world what we believe, without destruction, without violence, without hate, without tearing things apart. You see, our scriptures are very clearly on the side of peace, but also encourage us to fight evil. And regrettably, no, I shouldn't say regrettably, and according to our mandate, to fight evil with peace, to fight destruction with love. And you know how difficult that is. Jesus says, okay, of these people, which one was our neighbor? We want to say the Samaritan who got the guy on his horse and took care of him. But if we say that, we have to say, in our terminology today in the United States, it was a member of an enemy faction that gave us the example that Jesus used. It was a parable, it wasn't history today. What is it doing to us? It should bother our minds and hearts. We can't let the destruction, the civil unrest, the hate, the accusations, the woke ideology run rampant in our world without standing up for what we believe and protest: Jesus Christ, peace. And even amidst the chaos that these various groups promote, our goal is to follow Christ. In these social structures, our challenge is difficult and almost impossible. But nevertheless, we don't follow a flag, we don't follow a group, we follow the Son of God, Jesus Christ. And he is inviting us, as impossible as it is, to do good and love our enemies and do good to those who harm us. Through prayer, through meditation, through reading, that we should know who we are in this society that is so chaotic. And in the midst of that chaotic society, Jesus is saying, know who your enemy is and know who your neighbor is. And in imitation of the Samaritan, go and do likewise. It's almost impossible in this society, throughout the world, not only here in the United States, you know it, to love the enemy. And to the degree that we do not love the enemy and we go hide from the enemy is growing. Hate is growing. It's up to us and the example that we have from Jesus Christ to love one another, respect one another, and not get riled up into the row of hate and destruction. Our God, from the letter today to the Colossians, is not just God, not just another word. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of creation. All things were created in him, and thrones and dominations and all the angelic powers were created through him. See, our God is God, not one of the gods, God. And he calls us to follow the example that Jesus gave us, to love one another and do good to those who persecute us.